Though the day hadn't officially started, the sun still tucked below the horizon, you and your friends were already on the road. Music quietly played on the radio as Katsuki drove through the highway, occasionally peering through the rearview mirror at his friend sleeping soundly. Eijiro was knocked out on the passenger seat, Denki leaning against the window with drool dripping down his chin, while the other three leaned into each other like dominoes. Katsuki couldn't blame them. He was lucky enough to have slept through the absolute ruckus occurring in the motel room next door, and to be the one driving the next day. You were the first of your friends to wake up, lifting your head from Hanta's chest and gently nuzzling Mina's hair with your cheek, which caused her to lean against Denki instead. You gave Katsuki a tired smile and yawned out a good morning, earning a half-hearted greeting from your friend.
"Think you can pull off the stunt you and soy sauce got yourselves into?"
Katsuki asked, keeping his eyes on the road. You had let your friends know about your fake relationship conundrum the night before, and after a short laughing fit from the group, they agreed to help in any way they could. You sighed, your prior nervousness beginning to resurface. God, I hope so. Let's hope those acting classes from middle school will be of some use.
If there's anyone who's good at bullshitting, it's you.
Katsuki chided with a smirk. Gee, thanks. I appreciate the compliment, Kat. Throughout a portion of the drive, you and Katsuki shared your back and forth banter until the rest of your friends woke up, taking a detour for a quick drive-through breakfast and early morning photography as the sun crossed the horizon. Eijiro almost got stuck when he couldn't slip off the statue of a moose, causing a scene for passing travelers, and everyone made a big deal of the mountain goat that was standing in the middle of the road. Hours flew by as the scenery of valleys and pine trees slowly leveled to open fields stretching across the highway. Ed Sheeran's Castle on the Hill blasted on repeat as you and Denki hollered the lyrics with your heads out the open windows, followed by Hanta belting out Everybody Talks by Neon Trees. Through the glare of the sun, you saw the familiar sign welcoming you to the equally familiar countryside, simultaneous excitement and anxiety making home in the pit of your stomach when it finally registered that you were home. It was time for you and Hanta to put on a show, and you were not at all prepared no matter how much you tried to trick your brain. Nevertheless, you felt a hand over yours, looking over at the Hanta who had a gentle grin, one that eased your nerves and calmed your pounding heart. It's gonna be fine, he reassured you, and you couldn't help but believe him. Responding with a squeeze of your own, the both of you focused on the streets passing you by, strangers and new yet familiar buildings merging into a blur as it faded from your view. Under the layer of anxiety, you could feel an intense sensation of childlike glee as you passed by an old ice cream parlor from when you were younger, the faint taste of bubblegum and cookie dough serving as a sweet memory on the tip of your tongue. You had to get your hands on a cone later that afternoon. The van turned to a corner past a willow tree, the sight of the familiar neighborhood causing a heavy breath to escape you. The neighborhood hadn't changed since you left, the pleasant sight of bicycles littering the lawns of several houses, reminding you of past memories and old friends. You neared the end of the street, and you had to swallow when the brick walls of your old family home came into view. Mina had her head out the window, waving her arms and calling out to your younger relatives, who were chasing each other around the front lawn. More of your family emerged from the house when Katsuki parked the van, and Mina and Denki were the first to exit and greet the kids. Your mother called to you as Hanta helped you out the van, immediately engulfing you in a bone-crushing hug. You returned it with no hesitation. Ever since you moved out for college, you barely saw your parents aside from the occasional holiday. You really needed this. You greeted the rest of your family that were present, catching up with a few of them as you watched your friends play with the children. Katsuki was tackled to the ground by a number of them, Eijiro beside him with your niece on his shoulders. Mina and Denki were playing tag with your cousins across the lawn, with two of them on your friends in a piggyback.
"Glad you're home,"
Hanta mumbled to you.
"That smile of yours seems to think so."
You pursed your lips, biting down your growing smile, but you nodded nonetheless as the two of you continued listening to your grandpa. "So it is true," your mother said, pointing towards your and Hanta's hands, which you earlier failed to realize were laced together. "I heard from your Aunt Irie that you and Hanta finally got together." All of your worry suddenly came crashing down. You laughed uneasily. Yeah, we got together not too long ago. By the way, where is Aunt Airi? She had some business to attend to. She won't be here until later tonight. Your mother's response brought you a sense of relief, your grip on Hanta's hand loosening. You didn't have to worry about your false relationship until later. You can enjoy yourself and focus on your time with your friends and family without playing pretend for a while. Nevertheless, you never let go of Hanta's hand. Your prior wish for ice cream was granted as you and your friends took your younger relatives across town. You waved at passing horse carriages and stopped at several shops selling trinkets and knickknacks, eventually purchasing a few gemstone bracelets for your friends, as a way to commemorate this vacation. You finally reached the ice cream parlor, and you couldn't help but bounce in your step as Dinky pushed open the door, your niece in tow. Mina accompanied you as you found a few tables to seat the rambunctious children, the gentleman ordering frozen treats for the lot of you. A brief chat about plans during your stay was shared between you and your friend, occasionally indulging your younger relatives with a play fight or tickle war. Some of the children had fallen in love with Mina's bubblegum-dyed hair, and she was more than happy to let them play with her wild locks. Through your baby talk with one of your younger cousins, you heard a familiar voice approach you. You turned towards them, and your eyes widened at who was standing before you. Wow, long time no see. The voice belonged to a young man about your age, with windswept hair and a snaggletooth smile. A smile that clicked a memory in your head. Kay? His smile grew wider when you spoke his name. Ooh, what a surprise. How's it going? Kay lived in the same neighborhood when you were younger, and you often bumped into each other whenever you came to visit. It's going good. I came to visit an old friend. I'm actually heading back tomorrow. But I'm glad I ran into you. I'm a little embarrassed to admit it, but I missed you. You blinked rapidly in surprise, a stupidly simple, "Oh," leaving your lips. Despite being neighbors living in the same street and running into each other later in life, and him being your first childhood crush, you barely talked to one another enough to comfortably say you missed each other. Still, out of courtesy, you told him you missed him too, and your conversations continued from there, albeit awkwardly on your part. Though if you were being completely honest, you weren't the most comfortable talking to him, especially when he was slowly inching closer to you. It didn't take long for Mina to catch on to your poor attempt at conversing, and steering away from said conversation, moving in to save you from your old acquaintance. But it seems that someone else caught your mild discomfort. Hey, babe. Before you knew it, Hanta appeared beside you with your favorite flavor of ice cream. He was casual when he weaved his hand into yours, making it blatantly obvious to the man before you. The babe comment caught you completely off guard. You had to take a moment to process the fact that that word really just left Hanta's mouth, and not in a joking fashion. It was bound to happen, yes, but you didn't think you would put on the relationship act until you were face to face with your aunt. You weren't sure how red your cheeks were, but judging by the warmth erupting from your face, you were certain you were more crimson than the red velvet ice cream Mina was eating. I don't recognize you, sir. Did you need anything from my partner by any chance? Hanta asked with his triangular smile, but there was a hidden edge in the way he spoke. From behind you, you swore you could hear Katsuki snicker, but you didn't bother turning around. Oh, said Kay, trying to mask his surprise with a smile. His gaze shifted between you and Hanta. I didn't know you were in a relationship. Kay didn't want to admit that he was mildly intimidated by Hanta's towering height, merely shoving his hands back in his pockets. Well, I just came to say hi. It was nice seeing you again, he said, giving you a wave as he turned and left the parlor. Only when he was out of sight did you manage to relax. You turned back to Hanta, who kept his grin as if nothing happened, handing you your ice cream and leading you back to the table with your friends.
Someone got protective.
Eiichiro commented teasingly, biting into his waffle cone as you and your friend sat down.
What? They looked uncomfortable. Any one of you would have done the same.
Hanta retorted defensively, beginning to scoop some of his orange ice cream. Yeah, but you reacted faster than I did, and I was literally with them while you were on the other side of the shop. Mina was busy feeding your youngest cousin some of her dessert, but you still caught her playful wink. That says something.
Well, yeah, they're my partner.
Mina shared a look with the rest of your friends before she responded with a cheeky smile. Pretend partner, Hanta.
That's what I meant.
The raven-haired quickly countered, hiding his embarrassment as he shoved another spoonful into his mouth. With your cheeks still flaring with what occurred just mere moments ago, you were oblivious to the current conversation, lost in thought until your best friend gave you a light shove.
Dude, your ice cream isn't gonna eat itself.
Hanta welcomed himself to some of your dessert, taking a heaping amount and devouring it before you could protest.
Hurry before all of it goes in my mouth.
Vengeful for the loss of your ice cream, you slid it far enough for his arms to reach, a childish glare in your eyes as you took a small amount and ate it. If you do, I'll kiss it out of you, you mumbled, and Hanta choked in surprise. Of course, you meant it as a joke, and you relished the sight of Hanta choking on the remaining ice cream in his mouth, hunched over the table with a hand muffling his coughs. Katsuki had a look of disgust at the mental image. Eiichiro covered some of the children's ears just in case, and a strained, and I escaped Mina as she and Denki tried to hold back a laugh. It took almost a minute for Hanta to regain his composure while you patted his back, and you couldn't help but awe at the sight of his bright-tinted ears, the pigment spreading across his cheeks and the tip of his nose. His black eyes wavered, roaming the table as he wiped his hands and mouth of the sweet residue, before brushing his hair away from his face.
You had me good there, you brat.
He turned to you with a smirk, licking the rest of the ice cream that lingered on his lips.
But I'll get your back. Just you wait.
Aww. Does my little Hanta Sero really think he can compete with me? Refusing to give in to his dominance, you fought back, lowering the tone of your voice as you spoke. If so, I'd like to see him try. You didn't miss the pigment returning to his face as quickly as it left him, but the man refused to back down from your gaze. It only took Katsuki's disgusted comment at your behavior to pull you both away from your heavily escalating interaction, and the embarrassment slowly kicked back in when you remembered there were children present. You and Hanta quickly went back to your slowly melting ice cream, a mild tension in the air that neither you or your friends acknowledged. But nevertheless, Hanta stole a few glances towards his pretend partner, who was busy eating the waffle cone that came with the cup, and his ears pricked red at what you said. If you do, I'll kiss it out of you. He wished he stole more ice cream. He wished you wanted to kiss him, not just for the sake of retrieving your frozen dessert. Whether or not ice cream was involved, he wanted to know if your lips were as sweet as the ice cream he stole from you, or if your kiss tasted sweeter and lingered like the cold against his lips. Yep, this further proved it. Hanta was whipped.
You underestimate just how much food I can stuff in my mouth before I need to be stopped. Well, joke's on you, I'm not sticking around to find out, but nor am I letting you go into cardiac arrest. So Jesus Christ, put the mustard and marshmallows down, that's disgusting.
Eiichiro tried to pry the skewer away from Denki, but the blonde wasn't going down without a fight, running around the bonfire to escape the clutches of his red-headed friend as he continued to shove condiment-filled marshmallows into his mouth. The get-together with your family was going swimmingly so far. After your friends and the children returned home from the parlor, the sun was beginning to set over the horizon, so with the help of your family, you all gathered in the backyard, set up a bonfire, and decorated the gazebo with lanterns. The backyard became a safe haven for lighthearted chatter, exchanging memories and life stories while seated around the campfire under the dimming sky. One of your cousins was sitting in the gazebo with Mina, strumming away and singing their heart out on the guitar as your friend danced hand in hand with one of the children. Bakugo was having some sort of friendly rivalry with your cousin's fiancé, a conversation you couldn't pick up on. Hanta had excused himself minutes ago, something about getting more hot chocolate for your niece, which you were grateful for. But you wished he didn't leave you with the incessant questions from the women in your family. "So when did you and Hanta get together?" your mother asked. "It's about time, honestly," one of your aunts added playfully. "I've heard stories of you two. It was a surprise when I found out you weren't dating yet." You endured most of it, giving vague responses with a grit of your teeth. Where the hell was Hanta? Over the seemingly never-ending questions and giddy babbling, it seems that the devil has spoken when you saw the tall figure of Hanta emerge from the back door, and looped around him rather forcefully was the woman you were low-key dreading to see. "Auntie Airi, welcome home!" You were happy to see your aunt, but the man she had her arms around caused a conflicting emotion to stir in you. Anxiety is the conflicting emotion. You really didn't want to blow your cover as a fake relationship, and you could barely handle the questions your mom and other aunts threw your way. "Ma, don't you think we should grab food and get settled first?" That familiar, monotonous voice appeared from behind your aunt, Nika giving you a wave with a small smile when you discreetly nodded a thanks to her. "Oh, you're right," your aunt replied to her daughter, and you held back a heavy sigh when the two disappeared back inside. The night came quicker than you anticipated, and your aunt was here, and your heart wasn't ready. Your mother and aunts had dispersed, either back inside or to chat with the rest of your family around the backyard. You weren't sure. You just watched the door, counting the seconds until your aunt came waltzing back out. "You're being dramatic," you thought to yourself, grabbing onto the stray hand beside you to ease your mind. Hanta looked down to you, giving your hand an equal squeeze as he pulled you to sit closer to him on the log bench. "Hey, you're gonna be okay," he said, giving your head a light bump with his. "I'll do most of the talking if you're not comfortable." He was heedful in the way he spoke, his goofy, lopsided smile further easing you in your worries. "Just pretend like we're in one of those cheesy plays in middle school, or like we're practicing lines in drama." You playfully shoved him when he brought up your 8th grade memories, though you were thankful for the temporary distraction. As your Aunt Airi returned, as jovial as you last remembered, you kept a firm hold on Hanta's hand, which simultaneously soothed you and fueled the inferno of romance in your aunt. She went on and on with questions, her lips alone moving 3 times faster than your mother and aunts combined. You answered a few, albeit hesitantly, while Hanta took the figurative wheel and responded to the rest. He oozes charm and charisma in the way he spoke, the smile never leaving his face as he kept up with your chatty aunt, all the while stroking the back of your hand with his thumb when he felt you becoming agitated. He talked with a passion that rivaled the flames of the bonfire, his smile shining brighter than the lanterns hung over the gazebo, laughter ringing sweeter than your cousin's guitar. It was one of many moments where you realized just how lucky you were to have this man in your life, going out of his way to play pretend to please your romance-obsessed aunt, even when he had the choice to deny your request. "So tell me, Hanta," your aunt went on, "what do you think of my dear nibbling? What made you decide that they were the one?" Hanta didn't even have to think, only hesitating to allow a tender smile to pull at his lips. "God, I don't even know where to begin. They've always been there since we met in elementary, and I guess the feeling was always there, but I didn't truly accept it until high school." He had directed his gaze to the sky, letting the words spill like ink on paper. "When I think of my future, and when I look back on our childhood, every moment is painted with them. I can't even begin to tell you what my life would be like without them. It's like a book missing a page, a forest missing the trees, a maze without an end. Although, I guess my feelings are sort of like an endless maze. He stopped momentarily, closing his raven eyes, but you felt his hand tenderly squeeze yours. Because the more I try to escape, the more I lose myself in my love for them. And I don't plan on finding the end anytime soon. You looked at him, and you could feel your heart thundering, a stampede of emotions rocking the very core of your being, every word of his weaving into a blanket that embraced your brain. You swore that nothing was more beautiful than the warm orange of the flames dancing against the surface of his skin, touching the face that was sculpted by years of maturity, getting lost in the ebony strands that sat upon his head. His smile glistened in the way you always admired, as he bashfully scratched at his cheek with the calloused yet gentle hands that comforted you for as long as you could remember. Your boyfriend truly was beautiful. Wait. Oh, dear. You were made aware of your aunt's voice as you snapped your gaze back to her. She was cradling her cheek in her palm, a wistful smile planted on her lips. The way you look at Hanta, I can see you feel the same way he does. You were at a loss for words when you saw Hanta turn to you in the corner of your eye. You really didn't mean to stare that long, and you didn't mean to be so smitten with what your best friend said. Best friend. He was just your best friend. He may have sweet-talked his way into your aunt's, and admittedly, your heart. But it was all just an act. It may have been the kindest and most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to you, but it was all for your aunt's sake. There was no way he actually felt that way about you. Right? A part of you wished he did. You didn't want to admit it to yourself, especially after Hanta practically flattered you. But you may be developing the slightest of feelings for your best friend. I hate all men. But when he loves me, I feel like I'm floating. When he calls me pretty, I feel like somebody. Even when we fade eventually to nothing, you will always be.